Today, a super exciting review of a car that many maybe seem to forget. This is here the smart hashtag 5. Is it the more clever choice to buy a Mercedes? This one here has also a Brabus badge. How does it drive? And it is actually 20,000 euros less expensive than a comparable Mercedes GLB, whereas it has a bigger battery. And if we compare it to a Mercedes GLC EQ, this one here is 20 to 30,000 euros less expensive. It has the same battery size. And if you compare it to the BMW iX3, the BMW has a bigger battery, but it's also about 20,000 euros more expensive. And last but not least, Tesla Model Y Performance would also be a little bit more expensive, but also has a smaller battery. So facts and figures actually speak for the price you pay and what battery size you get here. 94 kilowatt hours net and 61,000 euros in the price, 3.8 seconds in the acceleration figure for the smart hashtag 5 Brabus. This is a very interesting proposition, but it's not, of course, only about the facts and figures. It's also about exterior, interior, technology, driving experience. What's the efficiency? What's the real world range? So can it hold what it promises? We're going to find out with Thomas Nautical Fuel in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go. You've already seen it sometimes here, some light shows, nice with the turning indicators. A very beautiful illumination they got here across the front. Strong front indeed, and they have some similarities design-wise with the Mercedes GLB, definitely, although they are on a different platform indeed. Then you also have the big smart lettering here. However, this one, as I said, the Brabus version. And you can see the red accentuations in the lower part and also the Brabus badge. And Brabus actually also where we are today, not built too far from here. But of course, it's the one thing is like this, manufacturing, they do themselves. And the other thing is that they give the badging and the design and so on to serious works production cars, the one you can see here right now. The Brabus also gets the 21-inch wheels, the biggest ones available for the smart hashtag 5. You can see them right there. Red brake calipers as a contrast, and also here the contrast in the side mirror. And these door handles also are usually flush, but then they fold out. I always dislike these door handles, told you many times, and they will be forbidden from 2027 in China again. There was a story, the Chinese market wanted these door handles. Then they realized they're dangerous, and now everyone is forbidding them again. I think it's good that they will be forbidden again very soon. Then you can see this rather bulky design. Once again, very similar to the GLB. Large, smart logo. Length is 4.70 meters or 185 inches. So if we compare these competitors I mentioned, Mercedes internally, like the GLB, GLC, then the Tesla Model Y and the BMW iX3. This one here is, let's say, the shortest one of those. Just a little bit shorter than all of the competitors, but still somewhat in the same region. And this one gets all-wheel drive as the Brabus version, 3.8 seconds in the acceleration figure. That's the quickest one. They have rear-wheel drive, they have all-wheel drive, and they also have two different battery sizes. First of all, very quickly here, the light strip, and then again, this design scheme is carried over this vehicle. These horizontal elements, they are rounded on both sides. This, you can see that everywhere, exterior and interior. And red Brabus accentuation in the lower part. I really like this matte gray color here today, and Mercedes has also been using that quite a lot. So the one battery version is 74 kilowatt hours LFP. However, this one here, the bigger version, not only for the Brabus, there are also non-Brabus all-wheel drive versions with the bigger battery at 94 kilowatt hours. And that is a substantial size for that size. As I said, the BMW iX3 has a bigger battery, GLC EQ, same battery size, and Tesla Model Y and the GLB, they're actually a little bit smaller in the battery. So once again, the price-performance relation with this, starts at 47,000 euros in the entry price here, but then it goes to about 60,000 euros with the Brabus version. So great in the price-performance on paper. And then here we have an electric charging flap. Very interesting mechanism. It's 22 kilowatt AC and we have 400 kilowatt DC charging. Pressing this button, then it closes again. And the official figure, 10 to 80% state of charge, is 18 minutes. However, it also works quicker. So this can even charge in 15 minutes, 10 to 80% state of charge. So as you might see from the exterior, we do not expect the most efficient EV result. However, this one charges extremely quick. And it's also fast on the motorway. This can, as the Brabus version, can drive 210 kilometers an hour, 130 miles per hour. The other versions a little bit slower in the VMAX. But still, all the facts and figures already really speak for that vehicle. So can it be a viable, cheaper alternative to BMW and Mercedes, and it's even better price performance than Tesla? Well, we're going to find out with the driving and the efficiency and so on. But of course, we're going to check out the interior and the frunk, because that's always a thing. You don't always want to house the charging cable in the rear there. Actually, I don't even have to open it right there, because it's also on the key fob. Forgot that. Here, and because I found out, like you press once, and then the cool thing, it directly opens. So you don't have to unlock twice. And that's a practical thing too. EV users know that. And here you can see it is tiny, rather, the frunk. But this charging cable, you can also like, let it stand over there. It still fits in. So nice. Damn it. Oh, it's a smart logo from the inside. That's a very nice detail, isn't it? So that's pretty cool. And wiper fluid filled in here. And it's also the access to the 12-volt battery. Very interesting. So there we go. But once again, very good and practical mechanism here for the frunk, because when you have to unlock, again, that's kind of impractical. And we also had recently the experience that when you have the charging cable in the rear, underneath the cover, then you have some luggage on top, and then you want to go to a charging station. Yeah, what do you do with the luggage? And you have to hold it open or put the luggage out first and so on. So this is a very good solution. So yeah, even more interesting. Let's check out the interior now. Now to the interior. First of all, the door handles again that fold out is nicely done with the logo. And then they're also manual, but still, I like the classic ones. Here, by the way, already we have the lamination, dual glazing here in the front from the windows. So that's good. Then again, it's against noise, door closing sound. Yeah, that's not good. That sounds cheap. It's rather normal that it does it that way with the frameless doors, because we only have very rare cars, just a few ones that have frameless doors and still have a great door closing sound. That's really rare. Not the case in this one, but the build quality is exceptional. We already have soft touch on the top part. Then we have here the ambient lighting integration, and here microfiber in the Brabus trim, and also here, this is not hard pack. This is soft touch leatherette all the way to the lower part, and we hardly see that in any other German car that is double the price. Also here, this is also covered with soft touch leatherette. I can't believe that, you know, this is very amazing. This is the electric door opener here, just pressing it once. And here you can control the seats, forward to backward, also the inclination, seat heating with a separate button, seat cooling also with a separate button. Well, it's one button, but at least it's easily accessible and you don't have to do it always in the infotainment system. The only thing we do not have, we cannot adjust the mirrors there. That has to be done then at the steering wheel from the infotainment. The Brabus trim, once again, has a lot of microfiber, also at the steering wheel, also heated steering wheels, nice and warm. Red contrast stitches on the inside, real buttons at the steering wheel, left and right, real stalk columns. Red accentuations once again here, and in night driving is also more ambient lighting. Real instruments, and then the seats, microfiber inside, leatherette outside, once again with Brabus logo and stitching. It's a very nice design, and let's also check out the comfort right now. And now welcome to the cockpit of the smart #5 Brabus. By the way, listen and repeat, Brabus. It's not Brabus or something. The original German pronunciation would be Brabus. Really hard German pronunciation. Yeah, that's how it is. 2 times 13-inch screens. That's what I want to say. The Brabus version already gets the passenger screen, where Lea soon will play Rally Champion as a passenger princess. This is one thing you can do, maybe while charging or something like that. Main infotainment unit and the classic digital instruments, and also a head-up display. So this is something also what you get more in comparison to Tesla, where some, you know, might miss the instruments or the head-up display. Here you get both, actually. Pretty cool, by the way, here in the top, the Sennheiser sound system, 20 speakers. That's a pretty cool sound, actually. This one here, it actually goes up when you get in the vehicle. A spectacular effect indeed. And then you have, once again, as I said, with seats with the same design element here, with like horizontal and then the round shape. And it's actually not only sporting looks, but it's very decent in the comfort, you know, from the surface material, seating depth and so on. Also good for tall drivers, no problem as for the headroom with one A9 6'2". And not all versions are animal-free, but the Brabus version is completely animal-free from the materials, and some other versions too. You have to look in the configurator and also in our video description and in the data comment. There we also have the other trim details. So that's pretty cool. Steering wheel, in and out, up and down, easy control, and everything feels and looks really nice. From the layout, similar to the other Mercedes ones, GLB and the GLC EQ definitely, with the screen setup, but you have always then again this round design here. Red contrast from the Brabus once again, and then here also good clicking sounds from the vents. Underneath you have ventilated inductive charging pads, left and right, so 2 times. Cup holders, adaptive, better than with most Mercedes models, but there's an update for Mercedes coming as for the cup holders very soon. Stay tuned for that. Microfiber, then split opening. This is also really Mercedes-like. Space here, more space underneath. Cooling function also, and you can here also place a charging card, for example. That's also a pretty cool thing. Even the floor mats, look at that, have the special smart, I'd say, design like that as well. Glove box. Oh, look at that. Even the glove box, not hard pack. This is like a soft touch leatherette the whole way here in the glove box, and also here on the side for the knees. Also soft touch leatherette, dampened underneath. Glove box falls down in a smooth way, and also spectacular how they designed the ambient lighting here. This is then to open and close the vents. And once again, when you look at it at night, it looks even more spectacular. The top dashboard is also soft touch, so what else is there to say? It's really astonishing what they made, you know, from that whole build quality here. Underneath the middle console, by the way, they have this AMD visualization here, that they have the chipset in there. A lot of space underneath here. Then there are the 2 USB-C chargers for the front and more space underneath here. And then the driver POV here, the buttons, the steering wheel are quite cool. This is here then to change something in the digital instruments, clear to read, very easy. On the right side, this one would be, for example, volume up and down, next song, previous song. On the favorite button, at this moment, for example, you can bind the driving mode selection to it. That's what I've done. And in future, they say from February 2026, you can also connect this one here, this favorite button, with these deactivations of the speed chime. Because at this moment, you can click here, and then you can select something here, for example, but it's not available here with the speed chime stuff. You can deactivate the lane change assist. This is like easy to deactivate there. However, this important stuff of the EU speed chime thing, then you have to go here, and then where is it? Assistance, and then here the active speed limit warning. And that's too complicated to access that. So this will be improved smart promises. Then we have also a head-up display. It's always larger than it actually appears on camera. It's hard to see on camera, but I promise you can very well see it in real life. And the main infotainment unit, you already saw something from it. It's the main screen. You also have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto integration, which is really nice. And the system is quick, you know, and we're not used to that, at least from a lot of manufacturers. It's really, really nice, really quick. Also, the visualization of the vehicle here looks pretty cool. You can also open the bonnet or the trunk from here, or the shade on top, but there are also easier ways for that for sure. Then some hotkeys here on the left side, for example, for the driving modes. I have deactivated these chimes, by the way, that when you switch to driving mode, that is always like or something. That's really annoying. I have deactivated that. Here you can also change in the different driving modes. Is it more or low regenerative braking? And you can also activate the S pedal. That's like the E pedal, like one pedal driving. You can drive with or without it. Both would be possible. The only thing I don't like that much is that the climate change here, the climate unit, is only accessible here, pretty small, only there. For heated steering wheel, you have to go in there. For seats, you can do it here, cooled or heated seats, but you can also do it from the inside of the door, as I said. And then calculation of the car internal GPS of charging stops. Here, for example, across Germany, here 2 charging stops. So this is then also calculated. It works. The visualization is maybe not the most modern one of this GPS, yeah, but it also offers this route and charging calculation.
Hi, Lea here. First of all, I'm really nervous to speak in front of the camera. I'm sorry. But first of all, I had to say that I love that vehicle here, really, because of all the material choices, and the quality is very, very nice. So, Thomas, maybe that's our choice for the next vehicle.
It's going to get expensive.
And I don't look like that, but I love that racing feeling. That's very nice. I also love the M Sport package. Yes.
Always AMG and
yes.
M Sport.
Oopsie. So now we can play a little bit Rally Champion. Let's start. Woo! Now I have the full racing experience here. Yeah, nice. Yeah.
Oh, I see. That's.
Yeah.
Lea will enter the WRC very soon.
There.
There we go.
Fourth? Yeah.
Fourth. Come on. Yeah, so
Would be cool with the controller.
Yeah, but I mean, at least it's an easy control.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah,
it's
that's
something
true.
you can do while doing a charging stop.
Yeah.
Fourth. I think we have to do it again, right?
Yes.
But you're my number one.
Oh.
The rear seats will be super exciting. And who would have guessed that? First of all, when I lower the windows here, also for the rear windows, we have the lamination dual glazing. Wow. This is exceptional for this price proposition indeed. And with the integration and the 20 speaker standard sound system, more speakers here. So you can change the inclination of the rear seat here. This one does not change anything at first because this cannot be moved forward or backward. However, if you activate this button here, then you can control the forward seat and make more room for your legs here in the rear, making like a chauffeur position. However, there's also a direct hotkey for that in the lower part here. And this button here, one press, and then the inclination goes all the way backward, and this one goes all the way forward, and you can really make this a chauffeur car suddenly. So, and this is indeed this, like the Chinese influence from the Geely Corporation, you know, like Geely 50%, Mercedes 50%, and on the Chinese market, these luxury features are so important and people appreciate, spend a lot of time in the vehicle, and then they integrate such features here. And I mean, look at that. This is amazing. And at the same time, you can press one button again, then the inclination goes a little bit more upright and the seat comes back to you again. Wow. Then we have two USB-C chargers here in the middle part. Rather even floor. And when I'm sitting here as a tall driver, I still have a lot of legroom left. Look at that. Wow. It's astonishing how much legroom you have here in this vehicle. The angle of the knees also not too bad. Soft touch, by the way, also at the inside of the doors. Here you can now see more of the ambient lighting. Once again, I can change out the angle here. On this side, you can see the difference here. For example, like this, more upright or more backward. Headroom, also no issue at all. 189, 602. This is a fixed panoramic glass roof. You cannot open it in the sense of fresh air. What you can do is when it's really hot, then you can apply this shade right here. So it's like a hardware shade and it goes all the way. And the astonishing thing is that this really goes all the way across the vehicle. Last but not least, you have door handles here, like the grab handles, 3 inside the vehicle, just not for the driver. And here you have also separate reading lights for the rear, and they are also adjustable like this. What do they remind me of again? Where do they also use this design, like with the, that you can move it like this? I think it's also in some non-automotive area where they used this design. What was it again? Maybe some of you remember, and then you can put it in the comments. And once again, this design with the horizontal element, which has then the rounded shapes at the right and left, also at the back part of the seat, everything covered here in leather red. Also here, there's no hard plastic. This is also soft. This area here is soft. This is soft. just not the inside here, but I can surely live with that. And of course, the same microfiber use here on the inside, the high-grade leather on the outside, Isofix at the outside each, and we have here the, that hurt. And then here we have some more space underneath. There's also then the ski hatch with the magnetic function I showed you not earlier, soon in the trunk, because we already filmed the trunk. But it will come later after the rear seats. So then here is cup holders. I'm really amazed by the build quality and the flexibility and the luxury features here at the rear. This is something we rather see in much, much more expensive vehicles. Now let's check out the trunk or the boot. And the first question is, how do we open that? Well, I could open it also on the key fob. There's another button here for the trunk, but let's say the cooler solution is here. There's nothing like below on top, but here inside the smart lettering, it's the same, vehicle color, the same paint, but there's actually a button you can press. And it's a very cool solution, isn't it? Then it's supposed to be 630 liters. The one catch is here, underneath the cover. It's really close here. This hardly fits underneath, barely, when you put it vertically. So this is not the best height. However, the cutout is excellent here. Look at that. So this is then like where you use this exterior dimension for a great cutout. Then this one here is the ski hatch, which is magnetic actually. Haven't seen that ever actually, like a magnetic ski hatch from this side. We have about 1.40 meters in width, have about 90 centimeters, 36 inches in length, and the normal height here is about 29 inches, 73 centimeters. However, you can also put this one up, more space underneath. Charging cable would be possible, but the trunk is better, as I said, and you can also remove that completely. That would also be possible. Also very nice here, the remote unlock. I think the iX3 doesn't have that anymore, right? So then we have the total length of 1.85 meters or 73 inches. It is very well usable, definitely. So especially with this, very square cutout, this will be practical for a lot of bulky things. Brabus mode. Woo! Yeah, that was quickly 50 to 180.
How silent! Wow,
crazy.
That's crazy.
Crazy. I mean, that was super, super quick. That was extremely quick.
Screen is black now.
Yeah, how did that happen though?
I don't know.
Wow. And here 130 kilometers an hour. It's like 80 miles an hour. It's really silent. So the dual glazing of the windows really does a great job. So it's very silent. Here lane change, really stable. It's rather stiff, as you would expect from a Brabus version here of the smart #5. Changing lanes, also nice control, good feeling for the steering wheel and also for the steering itself. So it's a very compact feeling for the vehicle. It doesn't feel too large and feels really settled on the road. Doesn't shake up much, and you know that from the Chinese manufacturer, it's very often that the interior build quality is excellent and the price-performance ratio, but sometimes the cars disappoint a little bit in driving because for the Chinese market, they have a lot of traffic, they have a lot of speed bumps, and then they set the suspension rather soft. And here you feel like this influence, 50% Geely, it's a great build quality and interior for a decent price, 50% Mercedes. Hey, let's also set it up for the German Autobahn, that it works there, and it works very well. So the suspension is rather set on a somewhat sporty note, but not too sporty. We do have the 21-inch wheels on here in the Brabus version. I think it's still okay. Of course, you would have a little bit more comfort with the smaller wheels, but still absolutely fine, and also go back to normal, comfortable modes, and it's a little bit calmer from the throttle pedal input, which is not the throttle here in this EV, of course. Also here in the tunnel, 80 kilometers an hour, 50 miles an hour, reasonably silent because the dual glazing is also at the rear windows. And then you can see here more of the ambient lighting, which looks pretty cool. By the way, here when you use the turning indicator, you only hear it on one side, the side you are actually turning to. Sometimes it can happen, and that's something which seems also be influenced by Chinese software versions, that you hit the turning indicator and then something else happens, like a beeping sound from the car. Then the turning indicator sound is cancelled. That is, I'm not sure why they do that. So that's something sometimes to me a little bit irritating though. And as I said, this beeping chime from the EU speed law, that can be deactivated later on, they say from February 2026 with a software update, then on the favorite button. Also at the moment, it's tougher to do that. We have to go deep there in the menu. But so far, we could also easily deactivate here the lane keeping assist or lane change assist on some, but I felt no urge to deactivate that because it wasn't really disturbing me so far. So the key message about this vehicle is really, there is this cooperation between Mercedes and Geely, and I feel they both profit from it. From the Geely side, as I said, great price-performance ratio and great build quality and materials for the interior without putting the price higher. And from the Mercedes side, the experience of the suspension setup, that the car feels German. It feels like driving a Mercedes, more or less. This one here, the Smart #5 Brabus, it feels like driving an AMG GLB or something like that. Only that's maybe a little bit more agile. And it's also talked about that with Lea earlier, that as a passenger, you don't feel that you would be shaken around too much. Sometimes in these EVs, the passengers get a little bit sick. But so far, Lea seems fine. She also enjoyed the acceleration. Seems a little bit sleepy.
Lean back. That was a forward.
Oh yeah, she didn't lean back well. Yeah. But now she seems a little bit sleepy here in the afternoon after having lunch.
Yeah.
And that's actually a good sign, because when the car would be like, shaking up too much, she would like this. But he is really relaxed. Also when we're standing here now, bad weather around us, the road is slightly wet and we don't hear too much. It's really like a calm cocoon in here. If you use the passenger display or not, it's up to you. In this Brabus version, it's standard. We would probably not use it. Lea sometimes says that she's like a little bit annoyed by that as well, but yeah, that's totally up to you. And it's also good that I can control everything really easily, because I have the buttons in the steering wheel, also for the music, the rear turning indicators, have the head-up display, have the normal digital instruments, the air vents, for example, as well. Everything is easy to control, except maybe the climate unit, which is still digital here, but you can, well, it should be then maybe a little bit larger, but that's maybe the only thing I would improve as for the user interface. Yeah, and Lea now uses the seat heating. I can also easily use it here at the inside of the door. That's really easily done. As I said, with the recuperation, you can also set it individually in the driving modes what you want there. So, for example, regenerative braking low, that you just have a little bit. You can also set it to high, and you can also choose the S pedal. That would be the real one pedal driving that it comes to a stop, full stop, and then it continues. So you can set it yourself and then also save it together with your user account, for example. So that's good. What also impressed me here while driving slower in the city and so on was that you can turn the steering wheel quite far, and like how far you can turn in the wheels, so you can easily park in and out this vehicle. Although, I mean, it's not the largest one, but it's also not the shortest one, But this works very well for parking in and out. And once again, good noise insulation. Let's also test here something of the assistance systems. Smart Pilot Assist, it's called. So now it's activated. It's also actively keeping the lane. Let's see about that. Now it's making like a slight bend. And so far, pretty calm. Also keeping the distance to the car in front of us. Once again, you can see more of the ambient lighting. Also beautiful here with the speakers, for example. Standard sound system, very good quality. At the moment, the top speaker is drawn back because we're not listening to music, very obviously. Please hold on to the steering wheel. Yeah, of course I should hold on, but here so far, not that nervous. Following the lane so far. No complaints about that. And we also have a blind spot monitor, but at the moment no one is overtaking us. also go once again to the Brabus mode. Yeah, maybe sometimes a little bit nervous with the steering, maybe a little bit. That could be tweaked a little bit just. So, and now let's cancel it and then just accelerate to. That was 80 to 160. Whew. This has really some serious acceleration. I mean, it is 3.8 seconds, 0 to 100, but somehow it feels even faster.
3 seconds.
Yeah, it's really astonishing. Here, 150 kilometers an hour, and it's still reasonably silent. So you can also drive it here at higher speeds on the motorway. Of course, it stands much against the wind. So we'll also soon do some extensive efficiency testing. How is the efficiency at 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour? How is it at 130 kilometers an hour, 80 miles an hour, like 75, 80 miles an hour, something like that. And then give you an update on the real world concise range as for that. But here it does very well on the motorway. You feel really safe. It has a calm and collected feeling. Here also lane changes at higher speeds. So this is definitely Autobahn proof. So very, very good driving experience, and they have really done their homework. And I have to say, I mean, told you initially that when you look at the battery capacity, 94 kilowatt hours, and then at the price here at 61,000 euros for the Brabus version, that's all in. And then you look at Mercedes in somewhat eternally, and even BMW or Audi, you pay 20 to 30,000 euros more for comparable models. Tesla Model Y is also when you, for example, like buy all of the autopilot stuff and like this is also more expensive. Yet at the same time, it has a smaller battery, you know. So the price proposition is really, really good with this one. And look at that, how easily I did that corner. Good grip here also with the microfiber steering wheel, and the quality of the animal-free materials, really nice. So it does a good job in the city. It's agile enough. It is extremely powerful, great performance on the motorway, and stable from the suspension. And I gotta say, although the suspension is not that soft and we do have these 18-inch wheels, I think it's still okay from the driving comfort. Lea nods. It's always a good sign for me when Lea nods. Yeah, and let's do some more countryside driving because we have some really, really nice roads here again for you. Also go back here once again to more comfortable modes, but I mean, won't change the suspension now. Of course, when you have like really bumpy roads, then you might feel these 21-inch wheels. That's totally normal, definitely. Oh, there's still some kind of a little bit of snow here in the countryside. But it's a really smooth feeling. So Lea and I already discussed, you know, at the point when we maybe switch to full EV, this is definitely one of the hot competitors at this moment. Of course, we still have to wait for the concise range test and so on. This is, of course, super crucial then with the EVs. However, even if this one is maybe not the most efficient one because of the building form, if you now compare like a low-seating sedan or something, it charges extremely quickly, like in the fast charging. So that can also save your trip somewhat, that you don't have to wait for so long. You know, sometimes a little bit bumpy in the road, but still quite okay. And I do have a lot of driving fun with this one. So it is spacious on the inside. You sit upright. You have this traveling feeling, so to speak, because, you know, when you look around and everything, but at the same time, is also still fun to drive. And why is that? Here with the EVs, it's not as bad as with combustion engines if they are SUVs in the driving behavior, because of the heavy battery, which is on the one hand a disadvantage. At the same time, it evens out the differences between SUV and sedan because the battery is the center of gravity. It's just like so much weight in the center of the vehicle. And that's again a good thing, that you have a low center of gravity because you have to weight the biggest weight portion in the lower center part of the vehicle. So you also have somewhat a positive effect of that again. Overall, of course, is always better the lighter a car is, but it's really a lot of fun to drive here also in these countryside situations. So, yeah, I mean, effect-wise, it ticks all the boxes. Driving-wise, ticks all the boxes. So the only thing that is really left to thoroughly examine now is to check out how efficient it is at what kind of speeds. Well, and after this you might ask yourself, what's the catch? There is one. Now we did our efficiency test. We evened out the topographic levels, did 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour, straight back and forth. And second time, 130 kilometers an hour, 80 miles an hour, back and forth. Topographic level, the same then. And as much as I like this car, from all the features, interior quality, and how surprised I was, how good this car is in every single detail, the same way I'm surprised how bad it is in efficiency. Because the first 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour, 24 kilowatt hours on 1 kilometer, that's 2.6 miles per kilowatt hour. Here at around 8 degrees Celsius, so could be colder, could also be warmer. But we already had the battery, driven, some time. And that would mean a real world range at that speed of 400 kilometers or 250 miles. And then at 130 kilometers an hour, 80 miles an hour, that would be even worse at 32 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers. That's only 1.9 miles per kilowatt hour. And that would mean, for that case, a real world range of only 300 kilometers or 190 miles, even though we have that really large battery. If you use this vehicle here mainly for driving around with the family in the city, it's maybe not the worst thing. However, as soon as you're going to use it on the motorway for long journeys and also higher speeds, especially like the German use case, for example, then you know why a BMW iX3 or Mercedes GLC EQ is more popular for that use case, and you pay even more money for that. However, if higher speeds are not your main priority and you keep it rather lower or more with city focus, then indeed this one here is an astonishing price-performance ratio for everything else you get. And there's also one more thing coming up now. Of course, we still have to do one more charging test, because that's maybe something where you can, let's say, even out that high consumption a little bit time-wise. And now we do the charging test here. It's already dark, so I need some light. So we did confirm this consumption, by the way, one more time. I just want to be sure. And the interesting thing is that when you drive in winter times, at least it's not, it wasn't too cold, but also not too warm, then the consumption in inner city driving is kind of equal to 1 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour on the motorway. That's also very interesting, isn't it? So yeah, can be a little bit more efficient there. However, now at charging here, it's super quick, and it directly started here over 200 kilowatt. So I was driving it on the motorway. I was also preheating the battery. So yeah, that worked very well. And I plugged in at 14% state of charge and directly hopped in a couple of seconds to 220 kilowatt. That is really amazing. And then up to 50%, I was alone here at the charging station, and it even got higher, so 300 kilowatt, and also held that one. So we needed just 10 minutes for 40% battery plus again. Then here, just over 50%, another car next to us plugged in, and then now it plunged. But not because this car here wasn't capable of that, or because it couldn't hold the charging curve, because another car plugged in. And yeah, I really tried to find the most. I went from another station, it wasn't that powerful, to this one in here. But that's also, EV life. So you cannot always score the most optimum results, even if you try to, when someone else is plugged in and this charging station can't do more. So the limit of this car here in charging is not how quick the car is charging, but do you find a suitable charging station for that? And are you alone at that charging station? This is the limit here when charging this vehicle. So this is again working super, super quickly. And you can see, although there was another car plugged in, we can still do, about this 14 to 80 something in about 20 minutes. But that would be way quicker. You see here, this was the other car next to us that plugged in there, then it went down. So otherwise it would have continued, also further, and then we would more end up 50 minutes or something, 10 to 80%. And to confirm that, we did the charging test again alone at the station, plugged in at 15%. Once again, great result. It directly started at 200 kilowatt. Pretty good result, especially that it directly is there. Then got even higher, around 280 kilowatts, so also there a very, very good result indeed. And that is also kept for quite a long time. And then after 10 minutes we were almost at 60%, so that's a very, very quick hop. And it even continued like that, so 15 to 80% we then used under 17 minutes. And once again, a very good result. And even there, the 200 kilowatt was kept, so there was a very, very high overall charging average. So you can also see it right here that the average is almost 240 kilowatt. That's pretty cool. And even above 80% was still reasonably quick. It dropped a little bit to 160. And, about 90% I then canceled, but even these, in the high battery status areas, really cool here, about 91, it was still like 130 kilowatt, and then I really canceled. So that's amazing. Great car, great electric vehicle, great price-performance ratio, extremely quick charging. The only but is that it is not that efficient on the motorway. That's the only thing you have to live with. And now it's time to check out some of the competitors.